You wake up already behind. Before your feet hit the floor, your mind is racing. Emails, goals, expectations. You're moving fast, doing more, chasing success. But here's the quiet truth no one says out loud. You're exhausted. Not from work, but from the fear of stopping. Einstein never lived like this. He didn't hustle. He didn't chase applause. He once said, "Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value." And maybe that's what you've been missing. Not another goal, not another achievement, but permission to stop running. This video is that permission. You wake up, and almost instantly, you're behind. Your eyes open, and your mind starts sprinting. Notifications, deadlines, expectations. You check your phone before you check in with yourself. You move through the day like you're chasing something, but you're not even sure what it is anymore. Success? Validation? Just trying not to fall behind? Now, let me ask you something that might sting a little. What if this race you're running was never yours to begin with? What if the finish line was placed there by someone else, and you've been exhausting your soul to reach it? Einstein, yeah, the guy who redefined the universe. He never chased success the way we do. He didn't care about status or hustle. He once said, "Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value." Think about that. We spend years of our lives chasing titles, chasing applause, trying to become someone in the eyes of the world. And he's saying, don't be someone. Be useful, be meaningful, be you. So I'll ask you again, Einstein never ran after success. Why are you still running? You ever feel like no matter how much you do, it's never enough? You check your calendar and it's full. Meetings, projects, goals. You're achieving, you're moving, you're progressing, and yet, deep down, there's this quiet emptiness that won't leave you alone. That's the sickness no one talks about. The modern disease. It's not a virus or a physical pain. It's a kind of soul tiredness, a quiet, constant ache in the background of your life. And the strangest part? From the outside, everything looks fine. You've got a job, maybe a family, maybe some recognition. People might even admire you. But inside, you feel like you're disappearing. You wake up tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from this invisible pressure to keep up, to produce, to prove, to post. You tell yourself you're building a life, but secretly, you're just trying not to fall apart. We've built a world where stillness feels like laziness, where rest feels like weakness, and where slowness is almost a crime. And that's the problem. We confuse movement with meaning. You keep running because you're afraid of what will happen if you stop. If you stop working so hard, maybe you'll fall behind. If you stop pushing, maybe you'll be forgotten. If you stop chasing, maybe you'll have to feel what's really going on inside. But here's the truth. Most people will never admit. We are drowning in busyness and starving for purpose. And the worst part? This disease is contagious. You see, someone else sprinting toward their goals and you think, I should be doing more. So you hustle harder, burn brighter, stretch thinner. But even when you win, you don't feel it. You might reach the goal, but you're too numb to celebrate, too anxious to enjoy it. Because now there's another goal, and another. And somewhere along the way, life became one long to-do list that never feels done. Einstein saw this happening long before we did. He didn't need smartphones or social media to see where we were headed. He said, "The man who regards his life and that of his fellow creatures as meaningless is not merely unhappy, but hardly fit for life." He wasn't talking about depression. He was warning us. If we disconnect from meaning, from value, from depth, we don't just lose joy. We lose ourselves. Think about that. You were born curious, creative, present. You used to wonder, explore, play without guilt. Then the world told you to be serious, to be productive, to be better. So you traded your inner world for outer validation. And the more you chased, the more you forgot who you were before the world told you who to be. This modern disease, this obsession with doing more, faster, louder, it doesn't lead to fulfillment. It leads to burnout, to anxiety, to emptiness that achievement can't touch. We don't need another productivity hack. We don't need another morning routine. What we need, desperately, is meaning. We need to pause long enough to ask, why am I doing all this? Not how to win, but why you're even playing. And maybe that's the most radical thing you can do in a world that glorifies the hustle. To stop, to slow down, to get quiet, to listen not to your notifications but to your own soul whispering, there's more to life than this. Albert Einstein was many things. A physicist, a thinker, a rebel. But if you strip away the equations and the fame, what remains is something rarely talked about. He was a man who loved silence, solitude, and simplicity. While the world celebrated him for unraveling the mysteries of the universe, he quietly spent his mornings walking alone, often lost in thought, or playing the violin in the afternoon sun. He wasn't rushing from meeting to meeting. He wasn't chasing followers or fighting for recognition. He wasn't networking or optimizing his schedule for maximum productivity. He was present, and maybe that's the most important thing we've forgotten, how to simply be where we are without needing to be anywhere else. Einstein once said, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." Let that sink in for a moment. The man who gave us the theory of relativity didn't see himself as special. He didn't define himself by his intelligence or his accomplishments. He didn't strive to be great. He strived to understand. He followed his curiosity like it was a compass. And because of that, he discovered truths most people never even stop to ask about. But what's even more surprising, Einstein didn't believe success was something to achieve. He believed it was something to transcend. In other words, the more you try to become someone, the more you forget who you already are. He saw success as a kind of illusion, a moving target that people chase their entire lives, only to find that it never fills the hole they thought it would. He once warned, "Try not to become a man of success, rather become a man of value." You see the difference? Success is about how the world sees you. Value is about how you serve the world. Success needs applause. Value doesn't need an audience. Success can inflate the ego. But value humbles you, because it reminds you that your life isn't just about you. It's about what you give, how you love, what you leave behind when you're gone. Einstein found value in simplicity. He once said, "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler." He believed that clarity wasn't just intellectual, it was spiritual. To live simply wasn't to live poorly. It was to live richly, but without noise, without clutter, without the constant craving for more. And maybe, in this world of endless scrolling and constant distraction, we've lost touch with the quiet intelligence of less. Einstein didn't live like a rock star. He didn't care about fame. In fact, he found it burdensome. He wasn't interested in status. He didn't need the world's approval to know who he was. He was more interested in mystery than mastery. He preferred questions to answers. He didn't want to be the center of attention. He wanted to be in the background of the universe, listening to its secrets. He knew that the most important things in life can't be measured. Not success, not love, not peace, not wonder. He knew that a calm mind could see further than a busy one. That depth matters more than speed. That solitude isn't loneliness. It's communion with your own soul. In a world obsessed with getting ahead, Einstein chose to sit still. In a culture that tells you to always be more, he chose to be enough. In a society that worships productivity, he protected his imagination like a sacred fire. He said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Because imagination connects us to something deeper than facts. It connects us to meaning, to beauty, to the invisible. So here's the real question. What if success isn't found in the chase, but in the stillness you've been avoiding? What if you've been climbing the wrong mountain? Einstein invites us to stop, to turn around, to remember that the things that truly matter, wonder, presence, service, peace, can't be chased. They can only be received when we're quiet enough to notice them. Maybe it's time to stop running toward a version of life someone else designed and start listening for the life that's been calling you home. Let's go back for a moment, not just in time, but into your own memory. Do you remember the first time someone asked you, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" It sounds innocent, maybe even cute, but in that moment, something subtle happens. We stop asking who we are, and we start trying to become something else. And slowly, the story of success begins to write itself, not with your voice, but with the voice of society. Go to school, get the grades, get into the right college, get the job, make money, buy the house, earn respect, be productive, stay busy, don't fall behind, check the boxes, climb the ladder, don't stop, ever. This story is everywhere, in classrooms, movies, advertising, family dinners, and it's sold to us like it's the only path to happiness. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, that story doesn't work, at least not for the soul. It works for the economy. It works for status. It might even work for your LinkedIn profile. But deep down, you know it's not enough. Because even when you follow the rules, even when you do everything right, something still feels off. You reach the goal, and within days, it fades. You get the recognition, and it doesn't quiet the noise inside. You have the title, the house, the success. And yet, you lie awake at night asking, is this it? Einstein saw the danger in that model long before it became our normal. He understood that success without meaning is just a prettier form of suffering, and that many people chase careers, wealth, and approval not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being nothing, fear of being left behind, fear of disappointing others. But what if the real failure isn't falling short of society's definition of success? What if the real failure is never questioning that definition at all? Think about this. If you had grown up on a desert island with no media, no schools, no expectations, no one telling you who to become, what would you have chosen to value? Would you still be chasing the same things? Or would your definition of success look more like peace, presence, connection, maybe even joy? See, success isn't a universal truth. It's a story. And every culture, every generation, every person has the power to rewrite it. But most of us never do. We inherit the story from our parents, from our teachers, from the noise of the world. And without realizing it, we start performing a life instead of living one. And here's the most dangerous part. The world will applaud your performance, even if it's slowly killing you inside. They'll say you're impressive. They'll say you've made it. But they won't be there when you're alone with your thoughts at night, wondering how you got so far from yourself. So let me ask you, what story of success have you been living? And who wrote it? Was it shaped by your gifts, your soul, your inner voice? Or was it shaped by fear, by pressure, by someone else's idea of enough? Because if the story doesn't fit anymore, you have the right and the responsibility to change it. You can define success not by how much you've achieved, but by how aligned you are with your truth. You can decide that success means waking up without anxiety, that it means spending time with people you love, doing work that feels meaningful, and living a life that doesn't need to be escaped from. You can choose to measure success not in trophies, but in peace, in presence, in purpose. Einstein didn't follow the traditional story. He didn't care about being a millionaire, or building an empire, or being the smartest person in the room. He followed what was real to him: curiosity, silence, simplicity, wonder. And maybe that's why we still remember him, because he wasn't performing life. He was living it. Let me tell you a story. There's a man. Maybe he looks a lot like you. Every morning, he wakes up with a sense of urgency, like the world is already ahead of him. He grabs his phone before he takes his first breath of presence. He scrolls through other people's lives while forgetting his own. He answers emails while brushing his teeth. He swallows his breakfast in silence, mind already racing toward deadlines and demands. From the outside, he's successful. He's respected, smart, reliable. But if you look just a little deeper, you'd see it in his eyes, that quiet flicker of emptiness. That subtle question that never quite goes away. Why does it still feel like something's missing? He hits every target, achieves every goal, but none of it feels like home. And the saddest part? He doesn't know how to stop. He doesn't remember how to rest. He's been running for so long that slowing down feels like failure. And when night falls, when the noise finally fades, that's when the silence gets loud. You might think this man is rare, but he's everywhere. He's the CEO who cries alone on Sundays. She's the mother who keeps everyone afloat but feels like she's drowning. They're the friends who smile at dinner but haven't felt real joy in years. And maybe in some way, that person is you too. Because we've all been taught how to build a life, but not how to feel alive inside of it. We've been told that winning is everything, but no one told us what to do once we've won and still feel lost. And that's the thing no one posts about. Success doesn't always come with peace. Achievement doesn't always silence the anxiety. Recognition doesn't always fill the hole. You might be carrying titles, trophies, or even admiration, but still feel invisible to yourself. And I want to say something now that most people won't. That doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means you're human. It means your soul is still alive under the performance. It means there's a deeper truth inside you, knocking gently, asking to be heard again. And maybe, just maybe, success isn't about how far you go, but how honest you're willing to be with yourself along the way. There's a woman I once met. She had everything. A high-paying job, a beautiful apartment, a life that looked right. But she told me, with tears in her voice, "Every morning I wake up and feel like I'm suiting up for battle. Not because the world is against me, but because I'm exhausted from pretending this is what I want." So one day she stopped. She quit her job, not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way, just quietly, honestly. She started teaching art to children in a small community center. She made less money. She lived in a smaller space. But for the first time in years, she felt light again. Not because life got easier, but because she wasn't running anymore. She had come home to herself. That's the power of emotional honesty. That's the moment the chase ends and life begins. And here's the truth. You don't need to burn your life down to begin again. You just need to pause long enough to ask, is this really my path, or am I just afraid to leave it? Because you were not born to live someone else's version of success. You were born to feel deeply, to love fully, to move slowly enough to notice the sacred in the ordinary, to sit in silence and know it as peace, not punishment. And if all of this feels too far away, too quiet to reach, that's okay. You don't have to get there today. You just have to be willing to listen to the part of you that already knows you're tired of running and you're ready to feel whole. So now that we've peeled back the noise, now that you've seen that chasing success isn't the same as living fully, the question becomes, what do you do with all of this? Because awareness alone isn't enough. Insight without action becomes just another thing we forget. So I want to offer you something small, quiet, but powerful. A 1-week experiment, not to fix your life, not to change who you are, but to remember what's already inside you, the part that knows how to live with meaning, instead of constantly performing for it. I call it the value practice. And here's how it works. Every morning, before the world pulls you in, sit still for 2 minutes. Just breathe. No phone, no goals, no noise. And ask yourself one simple question. How can I be of value today? Not how can I achieve, not how can I impress, but how can I serve? How can I bring meaning into the space I enter, even in the smallest way? Maybe it's listening to someone who feels invisible. Maybe it's saying no to something that drains you. Maybe it's making art, writing, helping, letting someone go in front of you in traffic. Maybe it's simply being kind to others or to yourself. Start the day from that place, not from scarcity or fear, but from grounded value. Not, what do I need to prove, but what do I want to give? Then, at night, before sleep, ask yourself one more question. What truly mattered today? And write it down, just one sentence. No filters, no judgment. Sometimes what mattered won't be on your to-do list. It might be a moment of silence, a hug, a laugh, a moment you let go instead of holding on. And slowly, day by day, you'll start to see a shift. You'll feel less like you're performing life and more like you're participating in it. Less chasing, more choosing, less proving, more presence. This week is not about fixing your life, it's about listening to it, realigning with the version of success that feels true, not loud, not showy, but real. And maybe, just maybe, you'll notice something sacred in the slowness. You'll see how much you've missed in the rush. You'll feel yourself returning to something deeper. Not the version of you the world rewards, but the version of you that feels like home. And that is where peace begins. So here we are, not at the end of a video, but maybe at the beginning of something you've been needing for a long time. Permission to stop running, permission to slow down, to breathe again, to question the story you were given, and to choose a new one that actually fits your soul. You've been told your whole life to chase success, to hurry, to climb, to win. But no one told you that winning in the wrong direction still feels like loss. No one told you that reaching the top of the wrong mountain doesn't bring peace. It brings disorientation. Because success, when it's not rooted in truth, becomes just another trap. But now, maybe you're starting to remember. Maybe something inside you is waking up again. Something ancient, something quiet, something that doesn't care how many likes or titles you've collected. It only wants one thing: alignment. To feel like your life is actually yours, that your values match your actions, that your days are filled not with noise, but with meaning, that you wake up without dread, that you sleep with a quiet heart. Einstein never chased success the way we do. He knew that real intelligence wasn't in how fast we move, but in how deeply we see. He knew that stillness reveals things speed will always miss. He knew that being of value was more important than being seen as important. And maybe now, so do you. Because when you let go of what you were never meant to carry, the expectations, the pressure, the performance, you begin to hear your real voice again. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of comparison, but the voice that says, I'm enough. I've always been enough, even when I stopped believing it. Maybe for the first time in a long time, you don't need to become anything. You just need to come back to what you already are: a soul, a presence, a light, not here to impress, here to express, to love, to feel, to live. And when you start living from that place, from value instead of validation, you won't need to chase success anymore. Because peace will find you. It always does. When you stop running. So here's what I invite you to do now. Not for me, not for the algorithm, but for yourself. Take one quiet breath and ask yourself, what am I willing to let go of so I can finally come home to myself? Let that question live with you. Let it guide your choices this week. Let it open space in your life where joy can land again. And when you're ready, I'd love for you to share. Comment below. What's one thing you're letting go of this week? Is it the pressure to be perfect? The need to prove yourself? The rush? The fear? Let's talk. Let's be honest. Because maybe what we all need isn't another motivational speech, but a safe space to be real, to be seen, to be human again. And if this video touched you, if it opened something inside, share it with someone you care about. Not to grow a channel, but to start a conversation we all need right now. Because the truth is, you're not alone. So many of us are tired of chasing things we don't even want. And maybe, just maybe, if we stop, together, we'll finally remember the one thing we've been running from all along, ourselves.